Getting through higher education is a challenge for pretty much anyone. But when you're also managing a health condition or a disability, well, that adds a whole other layer of complexity. So today, we're going to explore three different levels of student support, starting with the essential foundations we have now and building up to a really inclusive blueprint for the future. Okay, let's get into it. This right here, this quote from a student, it just perfectly captures a feeling that is way too common. It's that sense that you're running twice as fast as everyone else just to stay in the same place. And that feeling can be incredibly isolating, not to mention frustrating. It's the human experience that's really at the heart of this whole conversation. And look, this is not some small niche issue. Not at all. Some studies show that up to 50% of college students report having a mental health condition while they're in school. Think about that for a second. That's potentially 1 out of every 2 people in a lecture hall. The scale of this is just massive, and it really highlights why good support isn't just a nice to have, it's an absolute must. So first, let's frame the problem. We're calling this the learning barrier, because for so many students, school itself can feel like the problem. And that brings us to the first and most common level of support. Let's call this foundations, formal accommodations. Now, you've probably heard a couple of these terms thrown around, right? IEPs and 504 plans. So here's the basic difference. A Section 504 plan is all about providing accommodations, things like extra time on a test, to make sure you have access. An IEP is a bit more intensive. It actually involves specially designed instruction to meet a student's really unique needs. But at the end of the day, they're both tools designed to level the playing field. And what do these accommodations actually look like? Well, they can be a huge help. We're talking about things like getting extended time on tests, which for a lot of students is a total game changer. Or maybe it's preferential seating to cut down on distractions, getting a note taker, having a little leniency with attendance for health reasons, or even taking a test in a separate, quiet room. Okay, so how do you actually get these? Well, the process usually kicks off when you connect with your school's accessibility or disability services office. And it's really on the student to self-identify and start that conversation. From there, you'll probably provide some documentation, meet with an advisor, and then you work together to create an official plan that spells out exactly what you need to succeed. And this is where we take a turn. Because all those academic accommodations, as critical as they are, they're really just focused on one piece of the puzzle, your grades. But is student success just about passing exams? Or is there a much bigger picture of well-being that we need to be thinking about? That question leads us right into our second layer. Let's talk about the ecosystem, the wider campus and community. This image here just says it all, doesn't it? This is actually the cover from India's accessibility guidelines for higher education. And it beautifully visualizes this idea of supporting a whole diverse range of students, moving way beyond just academics to this holistic vision. Because real support, it cares for the whole person. What's really fascinating now is just the sheer variety of support that's out there. I mean, beyond the traditional campus counseling services, you've got things like Togetherall, which is an online peer-to-peer support community. You've got self-help apps like WellTrack Boost, and even super specialized programs like Cougars in Recovery for students who are dealing with addiction. It's become this whole web of interconnected support. And some places are taking it even further. Take Northwell's Zucker Hillside Hospital, for example. They've partnered with dozens of colleges in New York to provide quick, specialized psychiatric care for students who are in a real crisis. It's just a powerful example of the community stepping in where a campus might not have the resources. So, we've seen reactive support, like accommodations, and we've seen ecosystem support. But this question pushes us to the final and maybe the most powerful level. What if, instead of just adding support systems onto a structure that's already built, we change the structure itself? And that brings us to our final level, the big idea, the blueprint designing for everyone. This diagram of an auditorium is the perfect way to picture this. On one side, you can see how wheelchair access might be an afterthought, right? Just a few spots kind of crammed in the back. But a truly universal design, it integrates those spaces seamlessly throughout the entire room, offering choice and dignity. It's the difference between a bolt-on fix and just good design. And yeah, there's a name for this whole philosophy. It's called Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. And what it is really is a process of systemic reform. It's all about removing barriers by fundamentally changing the content, the teaching methods, and the structures to serve all students from the get-go, instead of just retrofitting for a few. This table shows you just how big this idea is. Those Indian guidelines we mentioned, for instance, they break it down into 3 key areas. First, making the physical campus, the built infrastructure, accessible. Second, making sure all the digital resources, like websites and course materials, work for everyone. And third, designing an accessible curriculum that is flexible from day one. So what does this actually look like in a class? Well, it means things like providing lecture notes and readings in multiple formats, so text, audio, and video. It means all videos have captions, all websites work with screen readers. And maybe most importantly, it means offering flexible ways for students to show what they've learned, moving beyond just that one high-stakes final exam. All of this brings us to our final section, the future of access. This is the whole idea, boiled down to one simple, powerful analogy. Adding a ramp to a building that's already finished, that's an accommodation. It's a reaction. It helps, sure, but it also singles people out. Designing the building with a no-step entrance from the very start, that's universal design. It's seamless, it's elegant, and it benefits everyone, from a person in a wheelchair to a parent pushing a stroller. And that's really the question we should all be left with. It completely reframes the entire conversation. Moving from a mindset of reaction to one of true intention, well, that isn't just a change in policy. It's a fundamental shift in philosophy, creating a world where access isn't an add-on, but the very foundation of learning itself.